Hi there, and welcome back to Bible Break. Um, Genesis 35 and 36 to round off our little series in Genesis for the moment. We'll go back to Mark's Gospel next time round. One or two problems. My glasses are misting up because it's quite steamy this morning. Secondly, I don't know if you can see him, but I've got a cardboard cutout of Goliath here behind my chair, which is unsettling me a little bit. But then again, as far as I can recall, that should be Saul cowering behind the chair. Goliath is right out there in the open, isn't he? Let's get back to it. We're basically concluding everything, I suppose, to do with Jacob and Esau today, rounding off with their lineage, their descendants after them. I'm not going to read chapter 36. I'm just going to resume it. One or two important points from that chapter. Fairly important points, I suppose. But I'm going to read chapter 35 from the NIV as usual. Genesis 35 verse 1 through to verse 29. So the whole chapter, basically. Reading from the NIV as usual. Jacob returns to Bethel. Sorry about this. Right. Here we go. Then God said to Jacob, "Go up to Bethel and settle there, and build an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau." So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Get rid of the foreign gods you have with you, and purify yourselves, and change your clothes. Then come, let us go up to Bethel, where I will build an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and who has been with me wherever I have gone." So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods they had and the rings in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the oak at Shechem. Then they set out, and the terror of God fell upon the towns all around them, so that no one pursued them. Jacob and all the people with him came to Luz, that is Bethel, in the land of Canaan. There he built an altar, and he called the place El Bethel, that's God, the God of Bethel, because it was there that God revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother. Now, Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died and was buried under the oak before Bethel, so it was named Allon Barut. I'm assuming that we're talking about the lady who worked for Rebekah as a nurse, otherwise she would have been very, very old. After Jacob returned from Paddan Aram, God appeared to him and blessed him. God said to him, "Your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob. Your name will be Israel." So he named him Israel. And God said to him, "I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number. A nation and a community of nations will come from you, and kings will come from your body. The land I gave to Abram and Isaac I also give to you, and I will give this land to your descendants after you." Then God went up from him at the place where he had talked with him. Jacob set up a stone pillar at the place where God had talked with him, and he poured out a drink offering on it. He also poured oil on it. So Jacob named the place where God had talked with him Bethel, the house of God. Then they moved on from Bethel. While they were still some distance from Ephrath, Rachel began to give birth and had great difficulty. So this is her second son now. that she's giving birth to. And as she was having great difficulty in childbirth, the midwife said to her, "Don't be afraid, for you have another son." As she breathed her last, for she was dying, she named her son Benoni, but his father named him Benjamin. So look at this, Benoni means son of my trouble, but Benjamin means son of my right hand. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Over her tomb, Jacob set up a pillar. And to this day, that is the time of writing, no doubt, that pillar marks Rachel's tomb. So again, we're dealing with living history here. Israel moved on again and pitched his tent beyond Migdal Eder. While Israel was living in that region, Reuben went in and slept with his father's concubine, Bilhah, and Israel heard of it. And that's all we hear of that, but there's got to be some scandal somewhere, isn't there? Jacob had 12 sons, and then we have the list of the sons, the 12 tribes. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Paddan, Aram, and then Benjamin afterwards. Jacob came home to his father Isaac in Mamre, near Kirjat Arba, that is Hebron, where Abram and Isaac had stayed. Isaac lived 180 years, then he breathed his last and died and was gathered to his people, old and full of years. And his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. So, again, it's quite interesting, I suppose, to note that when Jacob, as we saw a few chapters back, a couple of chapters back, when Jacob was reconciled with his brother Esau, and then they went their separate ways again, that was not the last time that they did actually meet and get together again. I don't know whether this was the last time, but we are told that they were obviously together here for their father's burial, because this part of our story here in Genesis finishes with the death of Isaac, doesn't finish with the death of Jacob and Esau. When we come back, we'll pick up with Jacob and most notably with his son Joseph next time around. In the meantime, chapter 36, just to resume that, we have a list of Esau's descendants, and when it says in brackets, first verse, that is Edom. Esau was the father of Edom and the Edomites, we should say, and the nation of Edom ultimately. And yes, the chapter speaks about Esau's sons, but then it goes on to speak about, this is the account of Esau, the father of the Edomites in the hill country of Seir. And we hear about Esau's sons, but then they are spoken of as chiefs. The sons of Esau's wife, Oholibama, chiefs, Jalam and Korah. And then they are spoken of as being kings, the rulers of Edom. There's a subsection here. Bela, son of Beor, became king. And the significance of this, it seems to me, speaking of Esau's sons as being chiefs and kings, is that, where was it? Verse 31, where we have the start of that subsection. These were the kings who reigned in Edom before any Israelite king reigned. So there the point is being made, it seems to me, quite clearly, that at a political or probably more better civilizational level, Edom, Esau's descendants, and Edom, and ultimately the nation of Edom, was in advance of Israel, because they had their setup with their chiefs and kings, we are told in this verse, before any Israelite king reigned. Now that is the account that is given in this chapter of the Bible. Now, the broader account in the Bible, of course, and the story as it is told as we head towards the monarchy in Israel, is that actually Israel was not behind at the civilizational level. Israel was not, dragging its heels, as it were, because really speaking, the plan was that they should be a different nation, they should be a different people, and that God should be and would be their king, ruling over them by way of his laws and his precepts. And in the broader account of the Bible, the adoption of monarchy as a system of governance, or as a civilizational structure, was very much seen as a step backwards as opposed to an advance. But here in this chapter, the Edomites are depicted as being in advance of Israel in terms of their political, societal, civilizational setup. It's just an interesting point to note, it seems to me. But let's go back to chapter 35, where Jacob has to up sticks again and get away from Shechem because of the precarious situation, I suppose, that his sons placed him in as they took their revenge upon the Shechemites for the rape of their sister, Dinah, Jacob's daughter, Dinah. Although we are told here that it is God who tells Jacob to get up and go back to Bethel, where it really all started in a very real sense for Jacob as God met with him the last time he was in a very, very sticky, well, not the last time, the time, at the outset when he was in a sticky situation, fleeing Esau and heading towards an unknown future with his tricky uncle, as it turned out, Laban. So there we have it. What is of note and what is of real interest here at the start of this chapter 35 is that before they up sticks and move on to Bethel, Jacob tells his family to get rid of their idols. Now, the reason that this is so interesting is that we haven't yet got to the Exodus and then the giving of the Ten Commandments. And the first two commandments, you shall worship the Lord your God, you shall worship God alone, and you shall have no other gods before me, and you shall not make yourself any graven image or idol. So there it is formally laid out in the law, in the Ten Commandments. The first two commandments are spiritual in their nature. The moral and ethical content of neighbor to neighbor comes afterwards. But the Ten Commandments begin with 3 or 4 spiritual commandments, which are primordial, the basis upon which everything else should flow. They are the most important commandments. But it's quite clear, and we saw it, didn't we, with Rachel stealing her father's statuettes and idols. It's quite clear that idolatry there was in Jacob's family. But this is understandable because at the early stage of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the knowledge of the one true living God is just being given. It's just being revealed to them. That's not to say, obviously, that people like Noah didn't have any idea about God. But God, the God of Israel, has just revealed himself to Israel. And so the knowledge of God is developing amongst his men and his leaders and the patriarchs. And as this knowledge is brought home to them, then obviously the corollary of that follows that if the one true living God has met with me, has protected me, has kept me, has cared for me, if God has revealed himself, revelation, if God has revealed himself to me, then I should not be we should not be grubbing around looking for our own things that we can set up as gods and place our confidence in these things. Because it's quite obvious that the great, mighty, majestic God who has revealed himself to me is God. And not somebody who I set up and imagine to be there to protect me and help me and keep me. So, there is this purification of understanding which has to be matched physically by just getting rid of that which obscures, that's the thing, that which obscures the knowledge of the one true living God. And I don't know, but it could be that the terror of God is struck in the nations, and the nations leave Israel alone, and we're told that they are struck by the terror of God, whether that is partly because of the massacre that they knew the Israelites had exacted upon the Shechemites themselves, or whether that's this is a really truly spiritual thing, that God strikes terror into these people, because these people, Jacob and his family, the Israelites, have consecrated him and have consecrated themselves to him and are now looking only to him. And so God, once again, is acting on their behalf. Okay, way over time. So, like I say, we're going back to the Gospel of Mark next time around, and I shall see you then.